Today on the Region Free Gamers podcast, the Hall of Fame lineup with Metroid Dread, Shin Megami Tensei V, Imposter Factory, and more. Stick around. Hello everyone, welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast fluent in gaming. My name is Paul Romalo, and with me today, Shigeru Miyamoto's illegitimate child, Arnaldo Perez.
Hey, how's it going?
Great, man.
I'm over here furiously measuring all my furniture, like Papa would.
It's genetic at this point. Additionally, the inspiration for the crazy cat lady, Kelly Branford.
Meow.
And finally, special guest who I have nothing bad to say about because he is a guest from the Hall of Fame Movies and Games podcast, Matt Levy.
Thank you for having me on, guys. And it is early to find something bad to say, so just wait a little bit and you'll find something good.
Yeah. We'll come back and we'll edit something in afterwards.
But it's a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, man, thank you. And hey, why don't you tell us about your show real quick and where we can find it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the Hall of Fame pod is, surprisingly enough, a video game podcast. We talk weekly about what we feel is a video game that should be deservedly put into our own Hall of Fame. So from all ages, back from Atari, arcade, through games of the current gen, we enshrine games to our Hall of Fame, and it's a lot of fun. It's different, it's fun, but hey, listen, we're all just sharing our passion for games, right?
That's what it's all about, man. And I couldn't agree more. The fun, having listened to your show a few times now, I can definitely feel the fun, and that really is kind of what it's all about. So yeah, man. Yeah. It's great to have you here. Everybody can pretty much find you on their podcast platform of choice, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Spotify, Apple, Google, all the good places. So I'm just happy to be here with you guys. I mean, I'm a big fan myself, and I'm excited to talk about some games with you guys.
I can't wait to tell my wife I have fans. She's just gonna laugh and laugh and laugh. So everyone, today we've got our usual casual episode, often our most fun episode, where we just kind of chat about what we've been playing lately. But before we get to the games, I just want to give a big moose-sized thank you to all of our listeners, everyone watching us on Twitch today, and of course, especially our patrons and everyone on the Region Free Discord, who generally do a great job making me feel okay about my ill-advised game purchases. So if any of you out there listening would like to get in touch or join our Discord or Patreon, you can do so via our link tree. That's linktr.ee/regionfreegamers. And that'll point you to pretty much everything RFG related. And if you'd like to further lend us a hand, please tell a friend about the show as well. Now, everyone, I just need to take a moment. We've had big announcements on this show before, and I gotta say, Matt,
No, we haven't.
I am like once, maybe twice.
Not a single time.
Patreon was an announcement. We announced that on the show. Hey, everyone, we got Patreon. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
That said,
the one time I suckered people into giving me money was a big announcement.
That said, the Patreon's fucking nothing compared to what we got coming. And let me tell you, Matt, I'm super honored that you're here to witness this moment. We've had none bigger, and we need like an impartial third party to actually witness this as well. So
that's right,
Arnaldo.
We are now sponsored by Casper Mattress.
We're not, but something even better has happened. Arnaldo, please, why don't you share with everybody what has happened?
How can I put into words something so indescribably beautiful? It's like,
oh God.
Have you ever stared into the face of God, Paul, and thought to yourself, wow, can it get better than this? All this, I guess, to say that the Patriots are currently on a 5-game win streak.
You're so fired. You're not so fired. Nobody cares about your American football team and their little, their 2-year dynasty, whatever.
I have gotten a Switch, everyone. The wait is over.
Oh my my god!
That's right. I'm going to Disney World. I've gotten a Switch.
Damn.
You know, there have been some big moments, I would say, in the history of humanity. The moon landing was probably one of them.
Fake, but yeah.
The Hindenburg disaster. I think both of those were fake, probably. But this one is real. This is the first real significant achievement in human history. I got myself a SWOLED, just sort of off the cuff. Ooh. You know, I was browsing my Twitter recently, and I think I told you this story, but I love telling this story because it's like the most boring story, but in the moment it was very exciting for me.
Please share.
I was scrolling as I do, you know, on a weeknight when much more exciting things are happening around me. I was scrolling on Twitter on my phone alone in my house. And I stumbled upon, you know, one of the many, I think it was Cheap Ass Gamers, but one of the many accounts that are like, here's a video game deal, like here's a restock of some bullshit that I never get. You know, whenever I find one of these, it's like, oh yeah, that was 3 days ago, like this thing doesn't even exist anymore, you're so late. But this time I caught it like 12 minutes after it had happened, and they were like, Nintendo Switch OLED versions are restocked at Best Buy. And so, you know my policy, Paul. I will not buy a new console if it takes me more than like 5 minutes.
Yep.
Like if I can't just go on a website and put in my cart and leave, or walk into a store, pick it up and buy it, then I'm not interested.
I couldn't agree more.
And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to fucking Best Buy. I'm going to like click. There will be none left, but at least I can say, hey, look, I tried. Like I'll screenshot it and I'll be like, see, I tried to get it. It wasn't there. Like, oh, that sucks. Woohoo. And another like holiday season will pass me by where I'm not cool. But somehow, when I clicked on it, there were some still available and immediately got sent to my cart. Actually, I think I waited like 3 minutes and it was like, okay, are you ready to buy this now? And I was like, I mean, I guess I'm committed to the bit at this point where I have to spend like $380 on like a Wednesday. And I was like, sure. And they were like, all right, well, it'll be ready tomorrow, so come pick it up. And I was like, all right. And even when I paid for it, I was still not convinced that it was real. I thought that I would like show up and they'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, we sold it to somebody else. Or, you know, we don't believe that you are who you are. A man dressed like you could not afford this. You know, some circumstance would come up that would prevent me from purchasing this thing. But no, I walked in, they gave me my Switch OLED and I brought it home. And I gotta say, I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
Oh, so you didn't... Arnie, you didn't pull a Paul and you didn't keep it in the box for like 5 weeks?
No. Unlike Paul, I licked it. I licked it clean.
Ew.
And then I opened it. Because I had to make sure there was no dust particle that could blemish the surface of this mighty console.
Is the licking part of the exciting purchase story?
I'm really confused on that.
I know, I am too, but when we sell the screenplay to Ridley Scott, I think he can make it work.
Have you licked any of the cartridges, though?
No, I desperately want to, though. I've heard horrible things, and I just want to confirm for myself.
Which is baffling to me. Anytime someone's like, oh my god, this is awful, here, taste it. No, I won't do that.
Exactly.
I won't lick a Switch cart.
I also do the opposite of that, where somebody will be like, oh, look at this delicious recipe on like Instagram, and it's some like gorgeous looking, you know, whatever it is, and I'm like, oh, it kind of looks like shit. I don't know. I don't think I'd like that.
But my whole thing is, you know, back in the day, you had to blow on cartridges, and maybe by accident, maybe you licked it once or twice. But what are people doing? But what are people doing now? What are people doing licking cartridges? Like, there's no reason.
Hold on, what accident? Are you getting like goosed while blowing on the cartridge? What's going on?
You're being thorough, you know?
Well, the thing now is that the contacts are very small, so I don't think you can like blow effectively on it to get the like particles off. Now you have to really get in there.
I see. So you said you're enjoying it.
Yes. No, I actually I'm really enjoying it. I don't know. I've only held an original Switch like maybe a couple of times, but this one felt a lot more solidly built and a little bit heftier from what I can remember. The screen is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I've only played. I mean, I've not played docked yet, so I don't know what the performance is like once I dock it. But handheld, it's been a dream. Like everything I've played on it. And of course, I haven't run Crisis on it or anything, but
Sure.
everything I have run on it has run perfectly fine. And it's been, aside from the unforgivable act of not giving me an actual goddamn D-pad,
Yeah.
it's been fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're going to get into what I've been playing on it,
Yeah.
but just in general, the console is like solid. I mean, it's white, and I love that. That's kind of why I wanted the OLED.
It is nice. It looks really nice.
Though I will say, I have this question because I was very confused when I opened it. So I opened the console up, and there's a screen and the two Joy-Cons, and I'm like, click, click, I got this. Like, I know how this works. And then I see the AC adapter is just like hanging out by itself. And so the first time the first night I had it, I didn't even pull the dock out of the box. I just plugged it straight into my Switch.
Right.
But then a couple of days later, I wanted to actually set up the dock, and I pull out the dock, and I pull out the HDMI cable, and I'm looking on the dock, and there is not a single port anywhere on it. And I'm like, I can't be this stupid. Like, I'm stupid, but I'm not this stupid. And so I'm like flipping this thing around like every which way. And eventually I realized that you can, and I want to know if it's the same on the original Switch, which is why I'm asking, because I thought you just plugged it in on like the side of it. But this one, you pull off the back, basically, and hidden inside are the ports. And you plug it in, and then you put it back on, and it sort of like seamlessly becomes, a chargeable dock.
Yeah.
But
Wait, the Switch comes with a dock? I would know.
You would have,
Mine's still
honestly,
in the
Paul,
box.
you would have been endlessly amused by how long I was staring at this thing.
I would have been. You're right. Yeah.
Like a dog playing with a Kong toy full of peanut butter. I'm just like, just turning it over, trying to get at the thing inside. I'm like, how do I get this thing the way I want it to? It took me an embarrassing amount of time to figure it out.
Did you think to check the instruction manual?
I did, but I couldn't, like, the paperwork that came with it had no instructions on how to connect the dock, which I also thought was very strange.
Yeah. Maybe Nintendo thought it was so simple
Yeah.
that anybody could figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not Arnie proof.
Listen,
It's not
the thing is, I'm used to breaking the mold, so that's perfectly fine by me. Like, I'm used to setting standards.
Well, you gotta play it docked sometime too, because just the act of docking and undocking the Switch is...
Oh, it's insanely satisfying.
It is, because it's immediate. Like, it's insane how easy and seamless it is. That was the number one thing about it that I was most impressed with when I first got it, was the immediacy of everything. Like, there was just no waiting for it to boot up. There was no loading. It's just, I play a game now, and then I play it. And it's like I'm, 9 years old again. Yeah. Except, I mean, 9 years old even is like kind of a lie, because the NES was finicky, man. That thing was no good. So
yeah, I'd say the Switch, as it works better even than in theory. Like, when you saw the first trailer or you saw how it worked, you're like, there's no way it's going to work as easy as it says. There's no way it's going to dock or undock that easily. But it's actually better than you thought. It just works.
Yeah. And the people in the ads were like way too good looking. I'm like, okay, this is unrealistic on all fronts. So it was a nice surprise with just how seamless it all was.
Yeah, even undocked, like putting it into sleep mode and turning it back on is like instant.
Yeah.
Raising and lowering the volume, which I've on other consoles I've had it be a giant pain in the ass, where it's like you can't just hold the button, you gotta like click the button, or like it doesn't like it like takes much longer to like raise up and lower down. In this, it's like if you hold it for 5 seconds, you're at max volume like immediately.
Interesting. Not something I've noticed.
And the sound has been pretty good, like from what I could tell. I usually play muted unless I'm playing something I really want to listen to. But the games I have played with sound on have sounded excellent.
Yeah.
Now, is the truth that you really waited for Nintendo to release the Bluetooth capabilities to buy a Switch, and that was why you waited?
No, I was waiting for the Switch Pro. The reality of it is I started, and this is something we do need to talk about.
Yes.
Fans will know. And if you don't know, don't go back and listen to our first episode. Just believe me, I'm sparing you like 2 hours of pain and suffering here.
Brutal.
That I initially said, I will get a Switch when they release Shin Megami Tensei V. And Nintendo apparently somehow, somebody out at Nintendo like absorbed this information through the ether and decided that they needed to, successively murder all the production staff of that game to delay it by as long as possible. And so 5 years later, here I sit with a goddamn Switch as Shin Megami Tensei V has finally come out. But once like 2 years passed, I was like, all right, I'm going to get it, but I'm going to get the Switch Pro. And then I waited and I waited and I waited. And then they released this thing. And I was like, this is as close as I'm ever going to get. And like the price is never going to come down on this.
No.
That was my other thing is like the Pro is $50 more. And I like if I could get an original Switch for like, $150, maybe I'd do that. But that's never going to happen. So I'm just going to spring for the extra $50 and just get the SWOLED. So that was sort of my journey to it. But, dreams do come true. Now I'm waiting for Advance Wars 1+2, which has been delayed.
Oh, delayed till when?
Yeah.
Till, I think, first quarter 22.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's actually
not a huge delay.
That's actually good, because the other day I was thinking about it. I actually went online to see if I could find it somewhere. And I couldn't, and I'm like, well, I thought they were releasing it by now. Like, did it sell out everywhere or something? And then I just forgot about it because I was like, you know what? I got too many games to play already anyway. So
that's how I feel when a game gets delayed. Right now, I'm like, you know what? I have a backlog that is so long.
Thank Christ.
Yeah.
If it gets delayed in 6 months or a year, it's like, all right, I got enough to play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. But it was originally going to come out the day before my birthday, so that would have been serendipitous.
Oh yeah, that would have been.
But Advance Wars and release dates.
Of course.
For anybody who doesn't know, the original Advance Wars was supposed to come out on 9/11, and then it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good omen for that franchise, unfortunately.
Not great.
Yeah.
Not great.
Anyhow,
But,
so what have you been playing on your Switch?
Oh, I've been playing a ton of stuff, man. I gotta say, you warned me about this, and you weren't wrong. I really hate the eShop, setup. I really hate it.
It's not great.
I really hate it, because if you don't know, and it's exactly what you told me, is if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you're fucked. Like, if you're just trying to, scroll and, look for stuff, good luck. Because inevitably you're gonna be put on a page with 1,500 games that you have to slowly sort of click through.
Yeah, the Switch has a great library, but you wouldn't know that by going through the eShop, because there's just hundreds of games that you've never heard of.
Yep.
And it's borderline shovelware, some of them.
Yeah.
So the first day I got it, I didn't have any games for it, so I got plenty of time. So I was just going through the eShop, and I found a few games, but the one I want to talk about the most is Yuppie Psycho, which I finally got a chance to play. I missed it for our Halloween indie horror games episode, but I was so curious about it, and it was on sale at the time for $6.66. Which they immediately ruined the joke by adding tax to it. So it was $7.20 or something stupid. And this is when I also discovered that I get little gold for all of my purchases, which, has already set me up to spend so much fucking money on this thing.
Yeah.
Because I want the little reward. I want the little gold. I want to build it up and eventually buy something with it.
And it's not useless either. That's the thing, right? You don't trade in gold for a Mario pin You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, you actually put it towards more games.
Yep. And you can register your like physical games to also get gold, which I forget I need to do.
Oh, dear God, that's
I
possible?
always forget that.
Yeah. You have to, but this is where I'm going to tell you the sad news, which I also learned recently, is that you can only do it within the first year of a game's release. So if a game is older than a year, you can't redeem it, apparently.
Oh, dude, I've left like $100 on the table or something like that. This is
Which I was
disappointing
I was
episode.
honestly surprised that more people didn't know that, because not the year thing, but that you could redeem it, because they did the exact same thing with 3DS games, if I'm not mistaken.
You could do that on the 3DS?
I believe so.
God.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, every game came with like a little slip of paper in it that said like, here's the code you need to put in to like it was called registering, I think is what it was called.
Right. I remember that, but I don't like the Switch. I remember. I think I did it for one game, but I've probably only played one of my Switch games within a year of release. Anyways,
Yeah, I know, right?
So no, I'm going to build a little tower with my little gold coins and buy something stupid eventually. Because it's not like they give you like 3,000 gold coins. It's like, oh, here's 20 coins.
Every once in a while, they say like, oh, if you buy this game this weekend, you get twice as many gold coins.
Yeah, exactly. You get 70 gold coins if you spend $100 on this Pokemon game. But so I've been playing Yuppie Psycho. I beat Yuppie Psycho actually. I played it all the way through. Yeah, no, it was really fun. I'm not going to rehash too much of what we talked about in the last episode.
Sure.
But that game just builds a really, really cool atmosphere. And the characters in it are my favorite part. Like talking to people and like all the people you interact with, all the little side stuff you can do. It's a game that has so much content that it never tells you about. Like, because I remember getting to the end of the game and eventually going back through to look at a walkthrough or something, and every section of the walkthrough was like, oh yeah, and so you want to do these 3 things, and I was like, I never did that. What are you talking about? So it's a game that if you power through it, I mean, you can wreck it in like, less than 10 hours probably.
Oh, like less than 7 even. Yeah.
But if you sit and try to find all the stuff and all the side missions and like talk to as many NPCs as you can, you find a lot more content in there. I don't think we mentioned it, but did you find any of the VHS tapes?
Yeah.
When you were playing it, Paul?
I think
that was
found
some of my favorite shit.
Oh yeah.
Watching the like homemade horror movies.
Then they're extremely homemade, but also kind of like some of them are a little bit like unnerving. For like 30 seconds of homemade horror footage, it's like, ooh, that's a little bit scary. I think I found 4 or 5 of them, and I was like, wow, I guess there must be like 6 or something, right? Because I can't seem to find that last one. There's fucking like 13 of them. I didn't do anything. So yeah, I would have actually been very interested to find the rest and watch the other ones. Did you see in the Cuban pub hidden on the human resources floor, did you see the video that the guy was playing on the TV there?
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff in this game. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this, I don't want to say feature length. It's feature length in the game's universe, in that where the Club Mysterio tapes are like 30 seconds at the most. This one's like 1 to 2 minutes, and it kind of like it's almost like a little short film. Again, it's nonsense, really, like the other ones. But oh man, that's so cool. You didn't see that one.
I don't like replaying games, but this one might be one that I have to go back to just because it's so short.
Yeah.
I might just go back with a guide and sort of work my way through the whole thing.
Did you, when you got to the end, did you get was it the dagger? Did you get the dagger at the end? Or did
yes, I did get the
You did?
dagger.
Yeah, okay. According to Mike, I think we mentioned this on the previous episode, that's the new one that they added after release.
Yeah.
And apparently that one is like really popular. It seems like that's the one most people get now. So I was kind of hoping you got a different one, but like all the signs point towards that dagger, so.
Yeah. I just followed what the game told me, and I ended up at that.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, all right. So that's one, and then obviously pushing that one to the side. The piece de resistance, the thing that we're actually here to talk about, that was the amuse-bouche, and this is the main course here, is Shin Megami Tensei V.
Of course.
Which, of course, I bought immediately. And by immediately, I mean I pre-ordered it like 5 days before it came out. When I actually got a goddamn Switch.
Did you get the full collector's edition or just the steelbook?
No.
Or just... Did you get the steelbook?
Yes, I did get the steelbook. Okay. As tempting as that backpack was, I was like, I can't justify like spending like $120. 2, it wasn't, I couldn't find it. Like, if I could have found it, maybe I would have done it. Although apparently now after release, I just saw that GameStop apparently still has some up on sale.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you want one, Paul, you could be the backpack king.
You could
I won't be doing that.
Backpack.
I won't be doing that. The collector's editions for me now, with the amount of space that's getting taken up, it's got to be like, you know, a game that I've been looking forward to for years.
Well, I mean, if that's not what this was for me, then
exactly.
I don't know what the fuck. Also, can I just go on like a 10-second like rant?
By 10 seconds, you mean 10 minutes, but please go ahead.
What the fuck is with Atlus's collector's editions lately? Why the fuck are they going tall instead of like a normal box?
I like it.
Really?
Yeah.
I hate it.
Because all my collector's editions sit on top of my shelves. I say all my collector's editions. I have like 6, 7 maybe at the most. But they sit on top of the shelves. And if they have a wider footprint, that takes up more space. I have more space going up. So that Persona 5 collector's edition is perfect.
Yeah.
It's vertical. It doesn't doesn't have a large footprint. I'm all for it, man. Go higher, not wider.
See, that makes sense. But for me, I tend to stack I mean, I have like 3 of them or something. But I would put, if I had a smaller collector's edition, I just put it on top of the bigger one.
Okay.
That's what I do as well.
Yeah. So I still stack vertically, but you know, with these, it's like you can't put anything on top of it.
Well,
and I mean, that's assuming it doesn't like hit the roof from like my low apartment ceilings that I got here.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, you know, pros and cons, right?
Yeah. No, I don't like it. They need to change that back.
They don't actually. They need to keep it the same.
I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I am more of a I don't know anything about shape, so I can't make like a shape-related joke right now. Bring back the IDOS pyramid, like big box PC games. That's what I say.
That one can fuck right off. I'm sorry.
That's the one I want.
That's awful.
They flip open. They make like a little hourglass.
Oh man, no! Those things they don't sit on a shelf properly. They look all weird.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
You can't put shit next to that.
No, you can't. Anyhow,
you can't even put it sideways to go in a shelf because it's so like, I think it's just too long. Like the base is too wide.
I mean, PC games back then, it was the Wild West, right? Like they came in all different shapes and sizes. So
yeah,
that one just happened to be the worst offender. But it doesn't mean that others weren't as bad until they finally kind of standardized it.
Yeah,
I happen to love the ones that Velcroed open, where you can actually get like a preview of the game, like a book. I'm like, whoa, I can open this up and take a look at it.
Yeah,
yes,
they had the IDOS ones. I think did that, but they did it again, going the complete opposite direction. Theirs folded up,
right?
So it made like a little hourglass shape, which again, very stupid.
Yeah, they're
but
like,
I love it because it's so stupid.
Who wants a Honda Civic when you can have a Lamborghini opening up vertically? No,
that's right. They had the best. They call them gatefolds. I learned that like a couple years ago.
Huh.
But anyway, Shin Megami Tensei V. It's back, baby.
You're enjoying it?
We're back. I'm loving it so far.
Excellent.
More than Shin Megami Tensei 4, and I know that means something to you at least, Paul.
Yeah. I bounced off of that one. It was yeah.
I don't know what it was about it. I don't know if it was, and I want to say that maybe because it was on like the 3DS, but I played so many other Shin Megami Tensei games on the 3DS that I beat and enjoyed.
Yeah.
But there was just something about that one that didn't click with me right away.
Well, it's when you get... Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Let me ask you guys a question. I know 4 seems to be like the one people kind of shy away from. Was 3 the launching point for both of you guys, where you guys got into the series?
No, Persona 4, for me at least.
It's Persona 3 for me.
Oh, yeah. For me, it was actually Devil Survivor.
Ooh,
on the
really?
DS. Yeah, that spin-off.
Excellent fucking game.
Dude, it's so underrated.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was Persona 4, and, the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah. Shin Megami Tensei 3, that's a game I refuse to play without a strategy guide. I haven't played the remake. I'm, very excited to try the remake, because I feel like whether they intend to or not, when they, sort of upscale these for more modern consoles, the developers tend to sort of, I don't know if they're adjusting difficulty, if they're rebalancing things, or if they just throw some extra stuff in because they know that new players are going to jump in here, and you can't, this is not the age where you have a sort of small, very dedicated niche audience that will play your game no matter how esoteric and difficult it is. You have to have some wide appeal now.
Well, these games have always had crazy difficulty spikes in them, but I feel like this is the first game they're trying to make more mainstream. It went through the niche market. Now SMT5, I feel like it's the first one it's breaking through.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, and I don't know if I'm sorry, Kelly, what were you saying?
I just said for mainline, because the Persona 5 definitely blew up.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
And what I was gonna say is I found Persona 5 to be very easy. I played it on normal, and compared to Persona 4 or something, I found it to be incredibly easy. And Shin Megami Tensei 5 so far I found harder than Persona 5, but definitely easier than Nocturne.
Okay.
At least I beat the first boss. Took me a couple tries, but I did it.
Ultimately, that's the appeal for me, right? I mean, I like difficult games. I've gone on and on and on about that on the show before. But SMT4, dude, how many times was I gonna get one-shotted by enemies? And I'm just all right, I think we're good here. So if that's solved, then I don't know, man. Those Shin Megami Tensei games, they have a very unique flavor that I really like. I just don't want to get beat down constantly.
Yeah, I've definitely, I mean, it's only happened once so far, I think, but it's definitely one of those games where if you get caught in a bad battle, you can absolutely get fucking wrecked in a single round.
Yeah.
But it's not, that's the exception rather than the norm, I would say.
Should be. There should be fear of losing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the game does give you a lot of tools to sort of deal with that stuff. The one I've just recently gotten that I was this is the greatest fucking thing in the world is this one item, because the way you save in this game is you find these points called ley lines, I believe. And they will be scattered around the map, right? If you'll walk around, eventually you'll find them. Usually they'll be around important areas. But after you beat the first boss, you are given an item that lets you press L at any time and automatically transport you to the last ley line you were at. Which I was this is fucking magical, because whenever you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere and you end up in a surprise battle that almost destroys you, but then you survive somehow, no longer do I have to run around praying to whatever god I believe in that I won't run into another enemy that'll destroy me. I just press L, go back, heal up, save, do all my stuff, fuse some monsters or whatever, and then come back out. And I thought that was incredibly helpful.
That seems like a really good quality of life improvement for the series.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where the thing I like about the Shin Megami Tensei games is that all this stuff is only there if you need it. If you don't want it, you don't have to use it. It's not sort of integrated in such a way where you are forced to use these things. It's completely optional. You can make the game as hard or as easy as you want, even outside of the basic easy, medium, hard sort of difficulty selection. But everything from, I mean, this is not a clever observation on my part or anything, and it's really redundant at this point to say it, but I don't know who Atlas hires to design their menus, or what kind of Faustian bargain they've made with the devil, but they are so fucking good at it.
They are
every
the
single
best.
time. On every console, it doesn't matter what the console is, doesn't matter what the game is. The design work, like the ease of navigation on the menus, like finding everything so intuitively. Like obviously the character and the demon designs are all incredible. The overworld, a little bland. But I've only played like 5 hours so far, so I'm sure like it'll change up as you go along. But everything in this game, like visually, is fucking fantastic. Like, and again, like on the Switch, which I mean is not the most powerful console out there. It still looks really good. And people have talked about like mild performance issues, especially when you dock it. I haven't experienced any of that in, handheld mode. It's run like a dream. And, I've been loving every second of it.
Interesting. Story grabbing you so far?
It's very unique. You fight God. You are a teenager.
That's never happened before.
You make bargains with demons and they join you. They're really treading new ground on this one. But so far I'm intrigued enough that I want to keep playing. Like it's sort of how these games go. Like it takes a while to really open up. Like they set up a story in the beginning, and then like 10 hours in, it's like now it's time for the real story.
Yeah.
So what they've set up so far, I'm hooked, and I want to keep playing. But I know that like at some point, some mega demon is gonna show up to tell me that I have to eviscerate like the Lord beyond Lord of time or reality or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that. Also, like, very cool to see all the demon models in like full HD, and like you can even, I don't know if you could do this before, because I guess it just never occurred to me. But when you fuse demons now, or when you go into your party, you can rotate the models. So now I get to like really look at all these freaking cool demons and stuff. And really appreciate
take Mara
like,
for a spin, really examine Mara. Yeah,
that's right. I haven't found, I mean, Mara's like top tier, so that's like a 50 plus level demon right there.
It's true. Mara's a reward. They don't just hand that shit out like candy at the beginning. No.
Yeah. Which is a shame, because everybody should get to experience Mara from like the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
That's a top tier.
It has to be a surprise later on, in my opinion. You got to get to know the game a bit before you get to see Mara.
Exactly. You gotta take it out for dinner.
I can't imagine as a new player, just you're fucking going along. You're like, oh, Thor. Oh, look at that. Oh, it's Shiva. Oh. And just like just a giant penis riding a chariot. Like, all right, there we go.
Yes,
that's what it is. I guess I'm amazed more that they, in all these iterations, they haven't tried to disguise it a little bit more. You know what I mean?
I'm
Put
impressed.
A wig on it or something.
Put a wig on it.
Just like
a jaunty cap.
Yeah, exactly. a newsboy hat. But no, man, it's been really fun. You said you haven't gotten it yet. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, I've got too many games right now, so I think this one seems popular enough that I'm just gonna wait for it to either go on sale, like Nocturne eventually did, or maybe find a used copy. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have any problems with that.
I don't think so.
You might not get the sweet steelbook though, which I mean, that's
not a
your
steelbook
loss.
guy anyway.
How dare you?
I don't go out of my way for steelbooks, but if I know it's there on day one, then I'll just grab it.
Also, this main character, top, I would say, no, I'm going to say it, best, like, most stylish main character. He's got the best drip, for sure.
Over Joker even, eh?
Yeah, I would say so.
Oh.
I'm a sucker for, I mean, what they did with, like, his standard look when he was, like, a stupid schoolboy or whatever, whatever. When he becomes, like, the fucking angel demon guy, that's dope. I love that design. I don't know,
where
something
he has
about that
hair
shade
that
of blue.
everyone's envious of? Yeah,
with his luscious locks that trail down to the ground.
Luscious locks.
Now, is the
I'm sorry,
dialogue
Paul.
with
I know. I'm sorry.
Now, I keep seeing, like, on Twitter, people posting dialogue with the demons. Is that as crazy as I think it is?
I haven't gotten any of that yet, and I just want it so bad because I can't tell if they're fake.
Yeah, Kelly, what's crazy about it? I haven't seen this.
It's just like the demons almost breaking the fourth wall and talking to you in just crazy different ways. And I see so many of it on Twitter, and I'm just like, I don't know anyone that's gotten far enough into the game to tell me if that's true or if they're just like memes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the one I saw, well, because whenever I go in the comments, people are acting like it's real. The one I remember seeing was like, I forget her name. I think it's like Neko Sama or something. It's like the cat girl that's like on two legs. I don't know if you know the demon I'm talking about. But there was like a screenshot of somebody trying to negotiate with her. And I guess they screwed it up or something. And she calls them a fuckboy.
Maybe I do need to get this game.
I'm telling you, like, I want to know if it's real.
Now, Arnie, I got to ask, are you playing with subtitles or are you playing the dubbed?
I play with subs, but I have it muted most of the time. Like, I turned it on at first so I could hear, like, each of the tracks. But eventually when I'm just running around the overworld, I'm like, I'll probably listen to a podcast or something.
Yeah.
But,
right on, man.
I mean, the voice work is obviously, you know, they never miss. They never miss. Like, I feel like a tool sitting here and being like, the visuals are great, the audio is great, the gameplay is great, everything's great. It's a great game. It's perfect. Like, but it is. It's fucking good. And like, it's made for me at this point. Like, they give me exactly what I want every time, and they change just enough for me to be like, they did it again. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they do it every time. They give me 95% the same game, and they change 5%, they make it better. I don't know how they do it. It's incredible.
Even with Persona, and I will say Persona 5 was, story aside, like a giant leap over Persona 4, right?
Yes.
Like graphically, presentation, combat, everything was improved, right? It wasn't like 95% the same game.
Yeah, music.
Yeah, the music even, although P4's music was like...
It's very good.
I would say it's on par, personally, but that's a matter of taste. But like, the Demon Fusion stuff, it's all the same. And that's and that's really the foundation that the game is built on. I don't know how many times Atlus can make me go back and fuse these demons over and over, but they can.
Yeah. You don't want to... How many times can you add Pixie as the first demon in your party?
Exactly.
And the first demon that you fuse into another one and kill her somehow.
Every time.
Immediately destroy her until I find High Pixie, and then I need Pixie again. So I gotta pay like 3,000 Maka to get her out of storage, even though she's like level 2.
Yeah. Anyway, Arnie, I gotta cut you off here. We're going long.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take a quick break.
What a surprise.
You should be glad this doesn't happen all the fucking time. When we come back from break, Matt's going to talk about what he's been playing. Everyone, we're back. Matt, why don't you tell us what you've been playing?
Sure. So I just completed my second playthrough of Metroid Dread on the Nintendo Switch. The new console that Arnie had just purchased.
That's right. Metroid Dread, a game that I'm very much looking forward to getting at some point during the holiday season. Because as much as people were hyped on Metroid Prime 4, I was like, yeah, but you could just do Metroid Fusion again, and that would be my favorite thing.
Me too.
And then they did it.
I'm saying.
Metroid, they did a great job with the Prime series and making it work in a 3D world. But when I think of Metroid, I think Super Metroid, Fusion, not Other M. I never think about the RAM. I think Zero Mission. Thank you, which is a gem. And Arnie, like you, I don't normally play games more than once. I usually play a game, I move on. And I was compelled to play this game a second time through because it hit all the right notes. It strung all the right chords for me personally. And it's beautiful. I mean, I don't have the SWOLED. I just got the regular Switch. But it still looks gorgeous. Samus, she feels like smooth controlling her. And it's like a mix of run and gun where you feel like a little bit of Mega Man there, a little bit of Cuphead. But it just feels right, the gameplay. And you guys were talking about difficulty before. You like a little challenge. This game pushes you. This game's got some good challenges in it.
That's what I've heard.
And yeah, I've heard that as well.
But it's fair. And you learn the bosses. The bosses are some of the best bosses in all of Metroid games. So it really is a perfect package that Mercury Steam, the dev, put together. And I'm surprised because their previous game on the 3DS was okay.
Yeah. I heard
that one seemed to get mixed reviews.
I think the main complaint, or at least that I heard from Ozzy specifically, was that the way they made the game more difficult was just to have the enemies kind of become bullet sponges, and they have solved that with Dread. Because otherwise, I think it would have been a much better game. But this one, they appear to have, like, what is it? What is it about it now that makes it more challenging?
So, I mean, the handheld game, Samus Returns, was very melee focused about all these counter moves.
Right.
And
the parry system and all that.
Yeah, and it's nice once or twice, but you're forced to do it so often in that game that you're like, no, I'm Samus. I want to shoot things, It's like defeats who she really is. And also a lot of the enemies are repeated over and over again. And that's sort of the original game on Game Boy. That was kind of what they had to do to stay true to it. Yeah. This game, I think they had the freedom to create more enemies, more types of bosses, and it works. There's a flow to this game where it never overstays its welcome. The atmosphere, the graphics, and yes, they have like the video gamey worlds where now you're in like the fire world, and now you're in like a jungle area, now you're in the water area, but it works, and I had no problem with any of that. And people can nitpick about certain things about the game, and I'm sure you might hear some of those on the old forums and Reddits and things like that. But this game, I think it's a legitimate like Game of the Year contender, and for people that are like old school Metroid fans, I feel like this is like respecting the old, but also like this is a 2021 game. It looks pretty, it plays nice, and it's for people who like a good challenge, but it's a fair challenge.
Nice.
Yeah, I keep hearing, I think the thing that I've heard frustrates people the most, well, some people love it, some people get really frustrated by it, is am I pronouncing this correctly, the E.M.M.I.s or the E.M.M.I.s? Is that right?
Yes. So I was really not afraid for like, I'm not actually scared of these, but I thought I wouldn't like them because I don't normally like stealth areas in games. I want to go in, make a lot of noise and just buzz through the area. And I thought, I'm gonna have to creep through these areas. It's gonna look really hard and frustrating. But there's a loop to it, and it's fun, and it's cool when you finally like get through it. Like, that feeling when you like fail a bunch of times, then you actually achieve it, and you're like, wow, that felt really good. I need to do more of this. It's very satisfying that way. But the E.M.M.I.s sequences, they never stay too long. They're always fresh, each one. There are several of them in the game. And the story, too, to the E.M.M.I.s and to everything that's happening. People have complained about that, too, because, listen, people always find things to complain about. But I think it's the best Samus story, the best Metroid story. And I think Fusion was great. I think a number of them have great stories, but this could be the best.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
I mean, Samus a badass again?
She is so cool. And there's this feeling when you beat a boss and her confidence and just like, you don't see her face, obviously, because a lot of times she's wearing her mask, and you can see her eyes through the visor. But she's just got this badass attitude to her that is just so cool. Like, she was always like a favorite character of mine where like, yeah, you got your favorite video game characters, and yeah, Samus is cool. But I think this like elevated her to like elite, like super cool status. And I think anyone that plays this game is gonna be like, yeah, Samus Aran, she is badass. Like she walks away like a superhero, and one of like after she beats a boss, she's not even looking, and she just like puts her arm behind her and shoots and like defeats the boss without even like looking at the enemy. And I'm like, that's badass.
It is. It's so cliche. I never get tired of it.
No,
it really is, man.
It works every time. I was kind of excited about the E.M.M.I.s personally because I mean, Fusion is my favorite Metroid. I've played Super Metroid. I'm sorry, everyone. Fusion is my favorite. And I fucking loved the SAX segments in that game. They were fucking terrifying. They built tension really, really effectively. And because Samus is such a badass, it was really cool sort of feeling like, oh shit, like this is something I can't beat. Like, and if I don't run, it's going to kill me. And so I was hoping the E.M.M.I.s would be kind of like that. And it sounds like they are, except they're like in specific rooms. Like they don't chase you from room to room or anything, do they?
No, there's specific zones that they're in each of the maps. Okay. And they do go between some rooms, but it still makes up one whole zone that they're in. Okay. And you're right, there is definitely the influence from Fusion. I feel like they didn't have the tech on the Game Boy Advance to do some of those things. But yeah, some of those best sequences I feel like pay respect to the SAX and that fear that you had when you just see it, you know, walking behind you and you're hiding from it. And there's times where you have to do that here too. And it's scary, it's fun, it's cool, it's all of that.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense because Samus is so badass that what's the only thing that can kill Samus? Is another fucking Samus.
Yeah.
I love those kind of things in games, honestly. Like, I like having kind of a borderline invincible enemy that you have to run from, especially in something like Metroid, where it has a very particular atmosphere that lends itself well to that, right? Yeah. Like the atmosphere in, I don't know, any cartoony platformer that you want to name, it won't work. It won't work the same way. Like, this is a very Metroid specific kind of gameplay convention, and I love it, man. I love that idea. Yeah. And I'm happy people are complaining about it. People can shut up, man. Like, it's a good idea.
Are you a fan of Mr. X in Resident Evil 3?
Yeah, I mean, he's great, Mr. X. He's awesome. But one thing that's not that guy. One thing that's not a spoiler about the E.M.M.I.s, when they do catch you, and they will catch you a lot, you have like I'd say 1 in 50 chance of countering them killing you and you having to start over. You have to time it perfectly when the E.M.M.I. like comes at you, and you get good at it, but people on the internet will make it seem like it's impossible. But when you do counter it perfectly, it gives you like a little spark, but before it comes at you, it's a really cool feeling because then you can like escape and get away from it. And It's just a really cool feature they added in that I feel like no game has done before.
That's
interesting.
Awesome.
Nice. I also like how much of a badass Samus is. I'm not as into Metroid as the rest of you guys, but I have played my fair share of side-scrolling action / Metroidvanias where the main character is just kind of bland, right? Like, I love Dead Cells. It controls like butter, great action, but the main character is a nothing, right? Yeah. And it's nice to have these kind of games where the main character has some attitude, some personality, and just kind of like, you know, gives you that kind of like power fantasy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was my problem with Hollow Knight, where I thought the world was beautiful, it played well, but I just didn't care about the character I was using. I didn't really like connect with the main character in that game. And yeah, playing as Samus, you feel like you're playing, you know, one of those tentpole games like a Mario or a Zelda. Samus is like, She proved with this game, she's like, I'm back, and I'm Castlevanias and Metroidvanias. This is my genre, guys.
Nice. So worth the full price, eh?
I would say so. I mean, Nintendo doesn't often discount their games. I think they're sort of famous for that. But I'd say this is worth the $60 if, you know, hey, everyone's budget is their own business, and I totally get that. But this is definitely one for the holiday list, I would say.
Yeah, nice.
And you said you've done 2 playthroughs. How long were each one?
So I don't look for everything my first go through. I didn't go for the 100% playthrough, and I said, let me see if I can get some power-ups that I see along the way. Let me play through the story, have a good time, and just kind of go through it. And it took me about 8 hours. And I did my fair share of dying. And 8 hours, I think, is like sort of on the average on the internet. I'm not some...
I'd say that's a pretty good time. I'm usually seeing people like 11, 12, like around there.
And they maybe explored a little more than I did. And now my second playthrough, I got a much, much higher percentage of items. And it still took me 8 hours, so...
Yeah.
But there's a lot of enjoyable beats that you want to do again, boss fights that were great, and just you said it before, Paul, the atmosphere and the environment of these games are as much a part of the game as anything else, so it's just fun to experience that.
Nice. Do you plan on 100%ing it?
I think I'm probably done for now.
Yeah.
But I don't normally play games twice. I know, Arnie said that before. It's very, very rare for me. I can probably count on two hands how many games I've played back to back, within a couple weeks. Yeah. So that says something. But the game doesn't overstay its welcome. I mean, an 8-hour game, you guys know, that's a pretty swift playing game. Most games, like you talk about SMT5, I mean, you can put dozens and dozens of hours into that just to get started.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Did you find yourself getting lost a lot? Like, was it, I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of these games, they have like waypoint systems, but Dread doesn't. And like personally, not having played it, I like that. I think that's actually a feature, not like a lack. What do you think?
Well, some people enjoy getting lost in these type of games. They like that feeling of not knowing where they're supposed to go and getting into a little bit of trouble. I have no shame that if I get stuck for too long, I don't mind throwing a Google search and seeing where I'm supposed to go. I have no shame. People will probably on the internet right now, they're listening and they're going, oh, come on, what kind of gamer is he? But
fuck them.
I don't want to waste.
You're a gamer that has a wife and kids. Like, let's not.
Right.
I don't want to spend 30 minutes in one room looking what to do. I
got shit to do, man.
So
let me ask you this, Paul. Do you when you get lost in real life, are you like happy? Or do you just like smiling ear to ear as you're driving down fucking no-name roads trying to find like where you're trying to go?
It depends. If Christy is asking me to stop and ask someone for directions,
how dare you?
And I get to be obstinate, then that pleases me. Okay. But if I'm by myself, I would prefer not to be lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Just because I know some people do this, and I definitely do this. Have you ever gotten lost, like while you're driving, and you don't know where you are, and you turn down the radio? Have you ever done that?
I do that. I
do it all the time. And I don't know if I'm trying to like listen for bird calls or like I'm gonna identify something in the wind that's gonna tell me where the fuck I am.
So what's really funny, Arnie, is my job sometimes takes me to people's homes, and when I'm looking for a house number or I'm pulling down a street looking for a house number, I'll lower the music or my podcast so I can see it helps me see better.
See, for me, I only lower podcasts when I'm at a drive-through, so like the person taking my order doesn't spit in my food or something.
Oh yeah, of course. God, because you guys are
what the
right.
fuck is he listening to?
Like I never put my finger on this before. I know I do the same thing. It just never occurred to me. And it also never occurred to me how ridiculous it is. Oh man. Wow, the things we do is not funny.
It's fucking amazing. I did want to ask you, Matt, before we move on, because I know we're about to move on really quick. Is this game, because I love Fusion, but people always complained that Fusion was too linear. Like it was sort of like you go here, you go here, you go here, you go here. Like there's a big map, but you don't usually get to explore it very much. Is Dread like that as well? Like is it sort of guiding you along a certain path, or are you just free to go wherever you want?
So comparing it directly to Fusion, I would say it's far less linear than Fusion, which I think is the most linear of the 2D Metroids.
Yeah.
But this game still does a really good job that it'll take you on certain paths. It'll block off certain areas you can't go to yet. So it kind of is linear without absolutely just saying it out loud. Like you can't go this way. You'll try to go that way. You'll go through a few rooms and go through there and you go, oh, this is blocked off. I'll go back the way I'm supposed to go. So it does it indirectly, I would say. It feels open, but it probably is linear. It just has a good way of tricking you into making you feel like you can go anywhere.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you have to backtrack too, like everything's wide open, right?
Yeah, I had to backtrack a couple times. I didn't really get lost that much, but I can see how people potentially could, and it was never more than, 5 minutes away. The map is probably my biggest complaint, because when you're looking at the map, you have to really get familiar with how to read it. They really didn't upgrade the map as well as they could have from the handheld game from the 3DS, Samus Returns, where items and upgrades will show up on your map even after you've got them, so you can't eliminate those icons. They kind of get in the way.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and sometimes you don't necessarily know. You have to learn what things, kind of visual cues, let you open what doors, and it takes you like a good 2 to 3 hours to learn how to read the map. So there's a little learning curve there, I'd say.
Yeah, the map guy tried to unionize on his last day, and they just cut that guy.
Exactly.
Took him right the fuck out.
But anyhow, Matt, what else you got?
So the other game that I've been playing, I just got into, is Ghost of Tsushima, which was, I know it came out over a year ago now, but the director's cut, the PS5 version came out this year, and I said this seems like a good time to jump on. You're going to get the the PS5 push of this game, and we're talking for a linear game like Metroid before. Now we got an open world game, and sometimes I get overwhelmed when I get into some of these games, and this goes back to like GTA 3, where it's like, you're giving me too many things to do, guys. Like, I'm getting distracted real easily. And Ghost of Tsushima totally has that, but so far I'm staying the course. I'm enjoying myself. I'm only probably about 3 to 4 hours in, and it's heavy into story. The gameplay is definitely pulling me in. I'm still learning the combat system. It's not quite like a Batman Arkham type counter system. It's a little different. But the sword play's fun, and it's the samurai angle to it is a lot of fun, and the story is definitely what's going to make you keep playing, because it pulls you right into, you're in a battle, and you're battling there with your mentor, and you have all these flashbacks to learning your samurai skills. So it's definitely a special game, and I can see why people loved it. And I'm just surprised because, this is from, I think Sucker Punch made this game, and the games they made before this, the Insomniac series, which I played them, they're not great games. I mean, they were like superhero games before superhero games were like okay.
Oh man, I liked them.
I did too. I liked them at the time, but they're really they probably aged really bad if you went back to them today.
Yeah, they're very much honestly, they're of that time when it was like, we have a morality system. It's like, oh, cool. What's your morality system? Well, all right. So, like, let's say you're in the middle of a heated battle, and you find a defenseless child on the road. Now, you could either take that child and walk him over to his parents, or you could decapitate both of his parents in front of him, and then murder his puppy. And it's like, oh wow,
so true.
But that's what they were like. Fable and BioShock, these games were doing that back then. That was like the morality system, and those games, I played them, but I never looked back. I never played them again, and that was sort of the end of those games. Of those. You shoot lightning bolts. I remember that's all I was doing the whole game, was just shooting lightning bolts. Shoot
lightning bolts. It had a rivalry with Prototype, the other sort of superhero open world game of the time.
Played that too.
Yep.
It felt like a Spider-Man game, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Prototype was the more fun game for me because it was so much more stupid.
I've heard good things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like ragdoll physics. Like, you get to, like, jump 37 feet in the air and, like, just annihilate people. It's really fun.
Yeah, there's definitely some similarities there.
I'm assuming
that one got in Ghost of Tsushima.
Yes, is where I was going.
Oh, Ghost of Tsushima, you're traveling from village to village. You're having these duels. You're having groups of samurai are coming at you. You're crawling underneath these huts and these villages and sneaking around, and it's gorgeous. I mean, I first booted it up on the PS4 by accident because for anyone that knows, The PS4 to like PS5 upgrade system on the PS5 is clunky. It's confusing. It's really confusing. So I finally figured it out, and the game looked a whole of a lot better. So anyone that's like on the fence, do the PS5 version. And I'm not usually like, oh, I need the 120 hertz, or I need like all the fidelity. Like, I just want it to run smooth enough where I can play.
Hertz.
Yeah, right. Like, I just want the game to run smooth and I can enjoy whatever, you know, the developers were trying to get me to do. But I appreciate it here in this instance.
So I gotta ask, because like I've got this PS5 that is, Deathloop notwithstanding, largely useless to me. So now we're talking about Ghost of Tsushima, which has kind of been on my radar for a long time, but you know, there's only so many games to play, and it's only since you brought it up, Matt, that I actually looked into it, and I'm like, oh wow, this is much better than, or much better looking anyway than I thought.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm stupid. We'll take away the maybe, but like, I just kind of thought that I could take a PS4 Ghost of Tsushima disc, put it into my PS5, and then that would magically just upgrade it. And are you telling me that that's not the case? Like, I have to like do some kind of weird prayer ritual or something?
You do. It has to analyze how poor you are because you put in the PS4 disc.
Shit.
They ask for your
social, you have to put
you gotta put your social security number in.
Yeah, you gotta put in like your last 3 years tax returns.
The
and
last
determine,
7
like,
movies you saw in the movie theaters.
And then it says to you like, your income makes you too poor for this upgrade.
Exactly.
Wah, wah.
It's like you get to run this at 22 FPS.
That's all you deserve.
No, there's a dozen of PS4, you know, first party and, you know, significant titles that received boosts, whether it's just, you know, the hertz or some of the other graphical fidelities that they added or features. And this was one of them, and they're always confusing. There's jokes and memes about it online, and this one in particular, if you put the PS4 disc in a PS5, it'll play it, the PS4 version, just maybe a little, I don't know what it actually does, maybe it loads slightly faster.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then you have the option of upgrading to what they call the director's cut, the PS5 version, which is like, I think another $10 or $20 through, you know, you could do that through their digital system. Mm-hmm. Then from there, you now have 2 icons on your PS5.
Oh, I have heard of this.
And then from there, if you had already started a save on the PS4 version, you now have to load that either through your PS network, upload it, then re-download it, or you have to go into it through a USB drive. Like, they just don't make
yes in the face.
Like, Xbox does it so much better where it just works. It just works with an Xbox Series X.
It can't be that difficult.
It is, and it totally is.
Yeah, the problem is
why would I ever have 2 icons? Why would I ever want to play the shitty PS4 version when I have a PS5?
Paul,
why even give me the option?
What happens, Paul, is that this is part of Sony's hiring process for new digital engineers. So if you're able to figure this out by yourself within the allotted time, they give you a call directly and they're like, would you like to make $120,000 staring at you know, stat sheets all day?
You're joking, though. It took me a week.
I think that what I think they do is they take their potential new hires, show them this problem, and then if they can't solve it, then you're Sony material.
Ah, I see. That's right. Yeah. If you get somebody else to do it for you, they're like, you're the guy we're looking for.
Get somebody else to do it. like your problem with scissors. Finding a right-handed person.
Don't fucking get me started on the scissors again, man. Swear to fucking Christ. Matt, are you left-handed by any chance?
I am a righty.
Oh, God.
Oh,
he can't join in our pain.
That's right.
A lot of my family's lefties, and they're like, what happened to you? You had so much promise.
Good.
Instead, now you live a life of convenience. Oh no.
Yeah, now the world bows at your feet and gives you whatever you want.
It is much easier. Yeah, but my recommendation would be, if you somehow come upon a PS4 disc of Ghost of Tsushima, I would send it right back, go get the PS5 disc because it'll be a lot easier for you in the long run.
And it's on sale right now.
Yeah, the sales this week have been, really great. I mean, as we get close to like Black Friday and holidays, you will find good deals.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
Ghost of Tsushima is also on my list, but I don't own a PS5, so I'm like on the fence about it.
Right.
But I mean, since I saw them announce it, I was like, fuck, man. Like, I love samurai shit so much.
Yeah.
And to have like an open world samurai game, I was like, goddamn, this is like made for me.
Dude, I saw it at the one time I went to E3. I saw it in the Sony area, and I was like, oh dear God, like this looks very, very appealing. Yeah. And then I played Sekiro, and Sekiro really kind of turned me off of samurai stuff. I didn't want to see another guy with a braid and a katana for like the next 5 years, honestly. So that, honestly, Sekiro is really the number one reason I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima. If I'm really thinking about it, that would be it. But Matt, you're saying it's not as difficult.
If it's the difficulty that turns you off, but with Sekiro, this game, I have not died yet, and I'm several hours in.
Nice.
So it's not overly challenging thus far. For me, it hits the sweet spot because, like you, I grew up with the TV show Kenshin, and
I love Rurouni Kenshin, Samurai X, all that shit.
All of it's great. So it was really cool when I heard there's an excellent samurai game, and it's getting all the notoriety. And I waited till everyone told me the game was good, and I knew it was good. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna waste my time on this, and I'm having a great time so far.
Cool. The story itself, like, I don't know, man. As a general rule, my expectations for story in games are quite low, right? And especially for something like AAA, right? Like, just let's not. I'm not going to mince words about it. This one, like you said it grabs you and it's what'll keep you going. I thought it was a really cool concept myself. Like, why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah,
or tell us about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll give you the elevator pitch without any spoilers. Very quickly in the beginning, you're kind of thrust into a battle, and you kind of see the odds are against you, and everyone's going down one by one on your team, and your mentor and you are the only two left, and then you take on like this big group, and the main boss on the other side takes out your mentor and takes him captive right in front of you. And they think you're left for dead. And then you wake up and someone took care of you, and you have to kind of like sneak out and find your sword and try and save your mentor. And this girl that helped you, her brother's been kidnapped. So you got to like help him as well. So you're kind of thrust into like a couple different missions. Now what's kind of funny is that like they give you a horse and even this open world, and like, you don't have to like go right for saving the brother and saving the mentor. You can like, hey, you know what? There's something fun going on over there. I'm gonna go see what they're doing. But that's an open world game for you. It's like side quests. You know. But it got me hooked. It really had a cinematic quality to it, which Sony first party's been doing this for a while now with like the Uncharted games and God of War, where it really feels sometimes like you're playing a movie, and sometimes it plays itself. Some people will complain, but the story's really handled well, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next, and can I save the brother and whatnot.
Yeah. Did you try Kurosawa Mode?
I did, because I'm into that kind of the movie geeky nerdy stuff, to the black and white and the photo mode, and it's really cool. I got an OLED that I play these games on, and it definitely does it justice. It's cool that they added something like that, because I probably wouldn't play it the whole way through in like this black and white classic, samurai looking style. But it's cool for a few minutes here and there.
Yeah, it shows that they knew who their audience was, which is video game and samurai movie nerds.
Totally.
Okay, so finally I got to throw this back at you. Subtitled or dubbed?
So I go subtitled. I try to go authentic whenever I can. I feel like that's the way it was intended. So I do that most of the times, unless I'm like pre-attached to some like dub of a voice I knew. Like Dragon Ball to me is I just caught it as a dub early on. So like those are the voices I know.
Yes.
But for most things, I want to go the way that it was originally intended, even though the dubs have gotten a lot better for things, so I won't I don't judge anyone who wants to, listen to it in English, not read. That's up to you guys.
Not anymore, no.
No, Paul
Once
will
upon
still
a time.
yell. Paul yelled at me for trying to watch JoJo in English.
Ooh.
Yeah, but dude.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, it's so good in Japanese, man.
I know.
It really is.
I know.
Yeah, no,
I sort of take it, depending on the show, I sort of mix it up.
Yeah.
Like
And-
JoJo, I kept watching in Japanese. I did switch over, in fairness. Way of the House Husband, if you haven't seen it on Netflix. I watched that in English. I love that show.
Interesting.
So
That's on my
goddamn
list.
much.
Interesting.
I gotta get
Please
into that
do.
one. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the rule of thumb is if it's a Japanese setting, then hearing the English voices is what really throws me off.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
It can take you out of it. I think it can just immediately pull you out of whatever imaginary fictional world you're in if you start seeing them speaking in English. It's like, they would never be speaking English right now. This just makes zero sense.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. That's like in the anime especially when you're watching dubbed, there's a guy that starts speaking English, but he's not supposed to be speaking English. And they're like, I don't understand what you're saying.
All right. With that, we'll take another break here, and when we come back, Kelly will tell us what she's been playing. All right, everyone, we're back. Kelly, you are up. Tell me what you've been playing.
I have been playing a game that I have played many, many, many times before. It's a game that's really near and dear to my heart. It's the first Super Nintendo RPG I ever played. And basically, the only reason I ever played it in the first place is two kids at school were talking about this awesome game that they were playing. And I had just gotten a Super Nintendo, and I was like, I have no games. Can I borrow this game?
Oh, boy.
And they're like, sure, here you go. Final Fantasy II at the time, of course.
Yeah.
What we now know of is Final Fantasy IV. And I was absolutely terrible at that game, but I loved every moment of it. And the reason I say I was terrible at that game is I can remember the fire boss, Rubricant.
Yeah.
I spent probably 2 hours on him for one reason. I didn't notice the green numbers that were popping up every time I was hitting him with fire.
Oh my god.
Kelly, you are not alone. I can't tell you how many RPGs when I was younger would I be stuck on a boss and I would realize I was just healing him over and over again.
It took me so long. I was like, why isn't this boss dying? It's taking forever. And then I was looking closer and closer. I was like, those numbers are green. Does that mean I'm healing him? Oh shit.
There is a moment in every young RPG player's life when they realize they can heal an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I became irrationally angry the first time that happened to me. I was like, listen, you could be strong against something. That's fine. Like, if I wear a coat, I'm not going to get as cold. But if somebody throws a fucking snowball at me, it still hurts.
What's equally as fun, I think, is when you first realize certain enemies, when you give them a potion, it actually hurts them. I find that was mind-blowing when I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The zombie, if I heal the zombie, he'll die? That was mind-blowing as a young RPG fan.
I remember there was a boss in Final Fantasy X that was this big undead dragon that if you gave him a phoenix down, he would just auto die or something.
Yeah.
The second RPG I ever played on the Super Nintendo was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. And if you healed that final boss, he would die in 3 hits.
Whoa.
That's fucking awesome.
That's cool.
Seems consistent with Mystic Quest, actually, generally speaking.
Yeah, so that last boss...
So did you have to give the game back before you finished it?
No, they had both already... The two kids at school, they were cheering me on the whole way. I'd come into the school the next day and be like, I can't beat this boss. What do I have to do? And they would draw out maps on graph paper that we had for everything and just show me where to go. It was kind of cool back in grade school for that to happen.
And you were like, Ruva can't, eh? And then after you beat him, Ruva can. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, I might cut that.
Don't take my job from me. That's all I have.
Paul, you went for it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, so over the years, I've played just about every version of Final Fantasy IV that has come out. So when the Pixel Perfect remasters were announced at E3, which seemed a lot of people were upset about because it was only announced for PC and mobile devices.
Yep.
I was just like, cool, I'll have another way to play it and
I'm saying.
Try it out.
Yeah.
No console wars for me. If it's on PC, I'll play it on PC. If it's on mobile, I'll probably download it on mobile, but we'll see.
It's not the same. It's not the same since like the iPhone 4 or something. It doesn't feel the same to play a game on my phone anymore.
But I do think that the Final Fantasy games and role-playing games, like turn-based, are some of the few mobile games that I think work well because you don't have to like actively using a D-pad or something like that.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh
Good
my
point.
God. Nothing better than when you load up a mobile game and like the faint outline of a joystick appears in like the bottom right corner, and you're like, wow, I'm really gonna hate this, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to cover half the screen just to,
And then if your thumb slid like a little too far, you stop moving. You're like, oh, I fucking gotta reset my thumbs again. It was great.
Yeah, but honestly, if you take a look at the previous PC and mobile versions of these Final Fantasy games and the new ones, night and day, they look so much better.
Yeah.
They did a great job with the Pixel Perfect remakes, with these with the graphics.
I have a question.
You have a question, yes.
What are your thoughts on the font?
I have no issues with it.
Okay.
Maybe I just am not picky over the years. I don't know. I just know it could be so much worse.
In case you're not aware, Paul, very many people were upset about the font.
It's a big thing on the internet, and I was curious
I know, I'm
too.
aware.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It didn't upset me. There were other things about what they changed that did upset me. If we're talking, you had Final Fantasy in Japan, hard type.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the North American, which was easier. And then you had another version in Japan, easy type. This version is probably easier than easy type.
Really? Oh.
They they decided to do some updates, so you only need half the XP to level. They said that they changed the encounter rate to half so that it would make up for that fact, but you still end up way over leveled every time you get to a boss. So I had bosses dying in 2 hits. The trap doors in the one dungeon, those always, when I was younger, all those versions, I'd have 3 people die to disruption before I killed them. I didn't have a single person die to disruption in this version of the game.
Yeah.
The Palom Emporum could kill everything in twin cast with 1 hit. It was kind of silly how easy this game had become. Another thing that I didn't realize until after I purchased a whole bunch of them was that arrows, instead of being one-time use, you just buy an arrow and you have unlimited amount of arrows.
What the
wow.
So, because of that, the Artemis arrows that you get way at the end that are super powerful, that you only had 10 of, that most people probably never even used because you only had 10 of them.
Because you only had 10, exactly.
And you had to save them. Those Artemis arrows are so powerful that Rosa becomes one of your strongest characters in that final boss.
Oh my god.
So you have to choose between major damage and healing yourself because she's
Honestly,
so strong.
This sounds great.
No.
This sounds like my kind of game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just funny how easy they made everything in this game. I think still, if you want to replay the game and if you just want to, relive the story and get that nostalgia feeling, this is a great version of the game to play. The music is fantastic. They redid the entire soundtrack.
Ooh.
one thing that I heard a lot of people, once again, online complaining about is that the song on the moon, I think everyone remembers.
Yeah.
Yeah. They basically, people are complaining because it no longer sounds like fart sounds, so.
That's legit. Yeah. I'm gonna have to hear both, but that sounds like a legit complaint. As a general rule, I just prefer more farts over fewer, like for comedy value, generally speaking.
Yeah, for nostalgia's sake.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Just not in the car. When I'm driving and you're a passenger in my, like, hold it in. There's nothing worse than farting in the car.
You're not
Sorry.
the guy that, like, does it and then locks all the windows?
No, that's...
Oh, okay.
What am I? I might as well just waterboard my friends. It's like this. It's the same thing. How did the... So, Kelly, I know that these pixel perfect remasters exist. Final Fantasy IV is my favorite Final Fantasy.
Wow.
And the question is, like, does it look like the SNES? Does it look like the PSP, where, you know, everything's a little bit, I guess, higher fidelity, for lack of a better term? Like, what exactly did they do with this graphically?
It just basically, it still looks more like the Super Nintendo version, only with cleaner sprites and a cleaner look to it.
Right. So they didn't, like, redraw all the sprites or anything?
They look kind of a little bit higher quality, but they're still the same basic sprite in the end.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's very interesting. I kind of thought slash hoped that they might go the PSP route, or like just take the PSP art and sprites and make that better somehow. I thought the PSP one, out of all the versions that I've played, like the DS, the SNES, etc., I thought the PSP one was, well, it's my favorite anyway. I don't know. What about you?
I go with classic Super Nintendo, just because there's too much nostalgia there to go away from.
I know.
But my understanding was that the PSP ports were like the like basically most people's favorite.
Yeah.
They look really good.
Yeah. I know some people really like the GBA ones as well, but usually when I heard people talking about it, they were like, if you're going to play one, play the PSP ones.
Yeah. Well, then, Kelly, what are you picking then? The PSP one or the Pixel Perfect?
I would probably still go with if I want a challenge and if I want to really experience the game for the first time, I'd go with the PSP version.
Yeah.
If I just want a quick playthrough and I want to hear the new soundtrack and everything else, then I'll go with Pixel Perfect. Are
there any new scenes or stories or anything like that in the...
There are not, and they actually stayed true to the original Super Nintendo version, so the content from the Game Boy Advance versions is not there. So
I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah.
My husband did not like that. He was like, but I like switching out the characters in the end. And I'm like, I don't like that.
No, that's
just...
But that's what
makes
it so good. That's what makes the
Have we
story
found
so
the
tight.
first thing that you and Kelly's husband disagree on, Paul?
There was one other thing that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember she mentioned it, and I was like, I was legit disappointed. I was like, man, I thought he and I were soulmates, and then she brought that other point up, and I was like, aw.
Yeah,
so this would be the
perfect,
second
Paul.
thing. It's true, nobody is.
I got a question for you, Kelly. I was surprised these Pixel, remasters were just like Steam. They're like PC exclusives right now, and I always felt like these games felt at home, like on the PSP or a GBA, like on sort of a handheld. How does it feel, I guess, playing, this type of game, on the computer? I assume you're using a controller, right?
Oh yeah, I've got my Xbox Elite controller hooked up to the computer, so I just use that. You can use mouse and keyboard if you want. The controls are there, of course, but...
Yeah. If you're a disgusting individual.
Hey, I've got friends that will not use a controller for anything for their life, so...
And they're still your friends.
I know, weird, huh?
That's big of you.
Yeah.
I know, it's very generous.
I'm really hoping it comes to, a console or a Switch, because this is the type of game where I want to play the remasters, the pixel versions, but it's not the type of game that I want to play on my PC. I don't know if that's a weird thing.
No, it's not. It comes
think it
from
makes sense.
years and years of conditioning. Like there are, it's true though, right? Because like when we were kids, there were certain games that you could only play on PC. Like, am I going to play a flight simulator on a console? No. It could be amazing, but I'm probably going to play the flight simulator on a PC. And there's all these genres and types that when you play it on one format versus another, just kind of feel weird. And yeah, I mean, I'm impressed that you didn't notice any issue with this, Kelly.
I've been using the PC a lot more the past couple of years, so I don't know. It just, I feel at home. Plus, the PC setup is in the game room now, so it's just like consoles over there, PC over here. It doesn't make too much of a difference.
Yeah. Now, I do want to gauge something really quick, Kelly. Now, I know that you said it's very easy. Mm-hmm. Is it easier than Mystic Quest?
No.
All right. See, that's the bar of how easy it is. If it's easier than Mystic Quest, then I feel like I just hold down a button and I just win.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any RPG easier than Mystic Quest? See, we're all drawing blanks. I think that's the standard.
I'm sure if I dug up an old memory card with an RPG Maker thing I made, it'd probably be easier.
Oh.
You're reaching now, you know?
5-second long walk from here to there. Boom.
That's
done.
right.
Nice.
Kelly, I got one more.
It's Mystic.
One more question
ahead,
for you. The Final Fantasy IV, as it should be called. Paul said this was his favorite Final Fantasy. Where does this rank for you as far as your personal favorites?
Second. First would be 6, so I am highly awaiting 6 to come out.
Put that thumb down, dude. Come on now. giving the thumbs up.
Six is. I mean, it is that steampunk that kind of everyone became infatuated with, but it's a really good game.
Yeah. It is. It's.
Paul,
I'm not gonna
Paul's
throw
yelling
shade at 6,
as he's currently about to pay his credit card bill for the $7,000 Magic Hand armor statue that he bought.
7,000. Is that how much it's going for?
No.
Well, I mean,
I hope
when
not.
all the scalpers buy it.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm predicting into 2024.
But Kelly, I'm right there
exactly.
with you. I think the 6 pixel remaster is supposed to come, I think, in the next couple weeks or so. So that's one I'll be waiting to see, because I haven't jumped on any of these yet, but I think number 6 could be one to pull me in.
I am currently playing 5 as well, so it seems like that one they decided we're not going to make it easier, because that one's just as hard as I remember it being. Yeah. But I also don't know if that's just simply because 5 I remember being a lot more about using status effects and avoiding status effects versus getting stronger and just smashing face. So
Yeah. Cool. So what else you got?
Other game, another PC game, although these ones probably will eventually be available on the Switch. The first game in the series has been. It's the third game in the To the Moon series, called Imposter Factory. Now, To the Moon came out in 2011. Yeah.
Wow.
So we're talking 10 years ago now.
Come a long way.
It might be the game in my Steam library that I've had the longest without having played.
Wow.
Literally one of the first games I got, because I got Steam and I was like, oh my god, these games they're on sale and they're so cheap.
They're $1.
I've heard of To the Moon. This looks pretty good. And it's been sitting there for like, I don't know, man, like 8 years or something like that.
Sounds about right.
Also has to be up there in terms of the most deranged naming scheme I've ever seen in a franchise. Like, if you told me, oh yeah, Imposter Factory, the sequel to the Moon, I'd be like, that makes sense. That tracks, for real. What is this? It's the third game, right?
Yes.
What's the middle one called?
Finding Paradise.
There you go.
And there's also the side story that's a bird story. So...
Another game on my Steam library that has been sitting there for ages. That's a side story from Oh, wow. I didn't know it was a side story. I thought it was just
of course
made
you
by the same
did it,
developer.
because the names have nothing to do with each other. How would you ever know?
Well, since To the Moon came out in 2011, and then Finding Paradise, I believe, was late 2017, early 2018, they needed to try to get some interest up somewhere in between there.
Yeah,
so
the To the Moon IP wasn't doing as hot in 2017.
But when the first game came out, I remember so many RPG sites were like, "You've got to play this game."
Yeah.
It's one of the earlier walking simulators, for lack of a better term. There is slight gameplay elements to it where you have to do really, really easy puzzles to move on to the next set piece, but for the most part, you're just going from scene to scene and seeing the story play out. The story in these games, basically, you play as two doctors, Ava and Neil, and their job is basically that they work for Sigmund Corp, and they go to people who are dying's house and try to fulfill their dying wish in their head. So basically switch the memories in their head so that they think something like actually happened in their real life. And the caveat to this machine and what they do is these people have to be near death because this process will kill them in the end. So
Right.
So end of life, fulfill their dying wish. In the first one, the guy's dying wish is, I want to go to the moon. And he has no idea why he wants to go to the moon. He can't remember. And it's just throughout the entire game, you're picking apart his past, figuring out why he wants to go to the moon and trying to fulfill his wish, his dying wish. Same thing in the second one. You've got, this is the one I have played the least and honestly don't remember as much, but same thing in the second one. You're trying to fulfill someone's dying wish, and you end up doing the same thing. And then in the third one, all of a sudden you're playing as someone else, as Quincy. And you're going to a party. And when you go to this party, there's all these, other people that you talk to a girl, you go into another room, and all of a sudden everyone's dead. Okay. So you go in the bath, and this is like it's called a murder mystery. So you go in the bathroom, you come out, and all of a sudden everyone's alive again, and you're just going through the entire game and trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening, where this glitch is, and it just for a while there it doesn't even seem like it's connected at all to the other two games.
Yeah.
Until you get halfway through, and then there's one just tiny twist, and you figure out exactly how it's connected to the other two games, and it all comes together as a trilogy.
Nice.
Okay.
So playing Imposter Factory as the first game, not advisable.
It's weird because they market it as a standalone game, but I just feel that you wouldn't get nearly as much out of it unless you decided to play the other ones first.
Yeah. And the other ones I think are both similar enough in design and short enough that, like, you should probably go do that, right? Like, it just.
Well, this was my first
sense.
question: is how long is it to play the other two?
Each game is about 4 hours long.
Oh, perfect!
Honestly, I suggest playing them in one sitting.
Yeah.
The storyline is so emotional.
How much time do you think I have to sit down? 12 hours?
Well, each one. So 4 hours for one, then you can cry a little bit and play the next one, cry a bit more.
Now, Paul, there have been a lot of advancements in technology. Food can now be delivered to your house. You'll still have to get up to use the toilet, but,
Well, then I'm out, dude. Like, I'm sorry, but...
Well, if you get it on the Switch, you can just sit on your toilet the whole time.
True.
Now we're talking. Now you're cooking with gas.
Yeah, they did make some improvements to the Moon for the Switch, where it actually highlighted some of the things you could interact with, where on the PC version, you just kind of had to stumble around trying to figure out what you had to interact with to move on.
That's one of my favorite things in adventure games now, is the stupid button where you click it, and it's like, here are all the things you can touch.
Yeah.
I'm all for it, right?
Yeah, because, I love
it. Honestly, all I'm going to do is find them anyway.
Yeah.
But it's going to take longer and be unfun.
Yeah.
Right? Because the gaming concept there is just wiggling my mouse pointer around a room, which is inherently not terribly appealing. I'd rather just know where all the items are. I hate to say it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and I'd say To the Moon is probably the most emotional I've gotten over a a walking simulator game ever.
Cool.
When I finished with it, the way they handle the subject matter and everything else, I think they did a really good job with it. So when I was done with it, I just remember sitting for like a half hour just rethinking over everything.
That's so
Finding
cool.
Finding Paradise, same type of thing, and then Imposter Factory, just the way that it brought the other two games together was. Plus, Imposter Factory has a sentient rice cooker, so
Perfect.
he'll cook rice for you, the best rice ever, and and a cat that's a murderer. So
All right.
So
on.
should I?
These are selling points.
Yeah, so I should play this before going to like my family's Thanksgiving party and thing. That's what you'd recommend?
Yes, of course.
I was checking out a trailer of the game, and the art style is quite charming. I think the art style is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, art style, the music in these games is pretty well loved as well. I actually got the limited run games version of the game that came out. It finally came in a couple weeks ago. I heard they did a terrible job with the plush that they put inside there. There's some very scary looking Twitter pictures out there of this plush, and it looks nothing like it was supposed to.
Well, you'll never have to open it, and it'll make it more valuable that way.
Exactly. Since I have 2 copies of the game already, this one can stay sealed, and I can just pretend that it's a good-looking plushie inside that box.
That's right.
We have a friend up here who has a son, and at the time that this event happened, I think he was like 3 years old or maybe 4 years old or something, right? A friend of hers knitted like a doll for her son. And the doll is a clown, and it is the scariest clown I have ever seen. It is so scary looking. It has its own name. It's called Murder Lips.
Oh, lovely.
And people have like taken it places, taken pictures of it with them. She took it, unless I'm mistaken, she took it on a plane and like took selfies of herself getting attacked by Murder Lips. Like, oh my God, man. So yeah, sorry. Talking about the scary plushie is like, oh my God, is it Murder Lips again?
Yeah.
You think that like halfway through she knew it was gonna be bad, but she's like, I've come this far, I gotta finish this thing.
Gotta figure shit.
I don't know. Like it was a very earnestly given gift. I think she has no idea what it looks like. I will send you guys a picture.
Please do.
I guarantee that my description will not meet your expectation.
I don't
when
know.
You actually see it.
My imagination's doing a pretty good job right now.
Don't worry about it. It's gonna be worse. I guarantee it.
Cannot wait.
Murderous plushies. Yes.
I can jump back and forth between sobbing into my mashed potatoes from playing To the Moon and screaming in terror from looking at this clown doll.
Named Murder Lips.
I've actually offered to buy people To the Moon before, just so I'd have more people to talk about the story with. So
I gotta play it. It's
$8 on the Switch right now.
Is it $8 really?
$8.
Is that full price or sale?
That's sale. It's full price is $12.
Nice.
It's not that
Thinking
expensive.
about it. I gotta see how much it is on Steam.
Yeah. I think I got it for like $1 probably.
Yeah.
Actually, I think A Bird Story was $1. To the Moon was a bit more, but yeah.
Yeah, A Bird Story you can blow through in like 45 minutes. It's not that long. So.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the appeals of it. Same thing with Hatoful Boyfriend. A playthrough is really quick, and I was like, all right, $1.
One of my like 7 platinums on PS4.
It's worth it though. That game
I
is
have no
crazy.
regrets. I have 0 regrets.
Someday we'll talk about that game for hours.
I need to know
Hatoful
everyone's
Boyfriend episode.
favorite pigeon.
Okay, we can't get into this.
No, not now. No, not now.
No.
In its own dedicated episode.
Yes.
Right on. Do they have any plans? So when did Imposter Factory come out?
Came out this year, I think.
Came out September 30th. I was actually in the middle of playing Final Fantasy IV. saw it came out, downloaded it instantly, and had it finished 4 hours later. That's how, because I was really looking forward to this game coming out just because I had played through the other two. So.
Yeah.
Oh, right on. Yeah, okay. My follow-up question was going to be if they have anything else planned for the series. Like, is this like a clean ending? Is it a trilogy?
There's definitely going to have to be a fourth one because it was originally supposed to be a trilogy from what I remember, but at the end it definitely had the end ?
Oh yeah.
So
gotta love a good question mark at the end.
Yeah, and there's definitely still some unanswered questions about Ava and Neil and what's going on in the world. There's more to going on, and there's the meta story that they've just got to build on. So
Yep.
Okay.
Can't wait for the third one. The Humble Rubik's Cube, or whatever it's going to be called.
It is interesting that a series will not mention the name of the prior game. Like, I always find that interesting. Like, why not call back to and get, like, your fans, like, some people probably don't even know these sequels exist because the names are just so different and
They
unique.
have to do the only honorable thing to do, which is to name it To the Moon, Imposter Factory, 357 Days of Gamora, or whatever.
a fragmentary passage. Yes.
Exactly. A moment in time.
But
in
it
my
sounds really
dreams.
cool. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for that time investment,
Yeah.
like I should probably finally get around
I
to
mean,
it.
when we became friends on Steam, I saw it on there. I was like, you're going to play that someday.
This motherfucker.
Yeah. It's funny how walking simulators and like those adventures can really like, they can get emotional and they can really hit you, even though like it doesn't have some fancy game mechanics or turn-based, attacks or first-person shooters, but for some reason they can hit you. I mean, Firewatch and Edith Finch are like two games that like I hold in such high regard. Yet like most of the time I'm just walking around, but they hit you in the spots, and they're like those nice like short like tight experiences. So I'm definitely gonna check this out.
Yeah, Edith Finch
The story
was
is all
one
they've
that-
got. Like I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Like this is the game. Like we're 100% focused on the story, and so when you don't have to worry about encounter rates and stuff like that,
Right.
then I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, you sold me, Kelly.
Yeah,
Good to
Edith
know.
Finch was the one that really turned me on to this type of game. And
Yeah, I know. Yes,
When
Finch
it's-
it's really
when
yeah.
it's done right, it slays. Like, it's fucking great.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah,
it's done
exactly.
wrong,
Then you have Beyond Eyes. And,
yeah.
God
I've
damn
heard
it.
The Inpatient is another one that's not good. And that one I think is in VR too.
Oh God.
All right, we're gonna take one more break here, and when we come back, I will try not to ruin the show. All right, everyone, we're back. And I'm going to go through what I've been playing lately. I'm going to have to do it, relatively quick. I'm going to blame Arnie again.
Fuck you.
I will also take some of the blame. Let the guest take some of the blame too.
No, Matt. You were a tight 30 minutes. It was almost down to the second. It was perfect.
It's what we call professionalism. I've never really
exactly.
incorporated that aspect of humanity into my being.
So anyway, I've got a good game and a bad game. And it's very rare that I have a bad game. I can't even say bad game, a game that I didn't like. I think I've only ever talked about one on this show, and it was actually SMT4, where I asked Arnie for permission to stop playing it.
Yeah.
And thank goodness you gave me permission to stop playing it. So I think we'll go with the good game first, so we can end the show on a real sour note. I think that's how we want to go about this.
Yeah, I agree.
So the good game, I got the Aleste collection for the Switch a few weeks ago or so. And I gotta say, this is done by M2, who does a lot of the old, the Sega ages, a lot of ports. They are so good at what they do. It is disgusting. So I loaded up the Aleste collection. I was on a plane actually when I did it, and I was wearing headphones. And
did you like realize the appropriateness of playing a game like that on a plane?
I didn't, and I wish I had.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity. Damn it.
Were you sitting next to someone like turning your switch, pretending you were flying?
Elbowing them in the face. Oh my god! But you load it up, and there is a tune, like a tune that intros for about 12 seconds, and then it slides into the title song from Power Strike for the Sega Master System, but a remixed version.
Oh, shit.
And then it goes into a new tune again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this medley. It's, man, attention to detail, love. Like, this is what I love about M2. It like, their games just drip with this stuff. Yeah. And I was fucking ready, man. When I heard that Power Strike song, I was like, fuck yes, get me going, right? And so I played Power Strike. I played Power Strike 2, which are the console games on the Aleste collection. There's GG Aleste 1, GG Aleste 2. Those are, GG stands for Game Gear. So those are the Aleste Game Gear games, which I actually hear are really good. And they're definitely worth a pretty penny if you want to find the Japanese Game Gear games.
Yeah.
But the real star of the show, GG Aleste 3. So what M2 did is they got some of the old developers from Compile, programmer, designer, and like almost as importantly, really, the composer that did the old Aleste games. They got the band back together, and they made a game that it's a Game Gear game, right? Like down to the graphics and the sound. It is very much a Game Gear game designed for that system. Even has slowdown when you're playing, as if it's a Game Gear game. You can turn that off. I preferred not to myself.
Yeah.
Just because I kind of like it in that it makes the game a little bit easier sometimes. You know, if there's that much stuff on the screen, it's like maybe I do want a little bit of a cheat code here of sorts, right? But yeah, the star of the show, GG Aleste 3, and I can't tell you how impressed I am. We had Shmup Junkie on a few months ago for our Compile episode, and he was talking it up. And it's not that I was skeptical. It's just that I'm like, oh, it's a Game Gear game. Like, how good can it be, right? No, it's fantastic. It is challenging while being fair. When you die in the game, it's not like the old games, like those old 16-bit shmups, man. Like, you build up your ship, you build up your weapons, and then you get iced, and you go back to the pea shooter, and of course you just die immediately, right? You can't come back from that with those old shmups. Yeah. But with GG Aleste 3, you absolutely can, right? You don't lose all your weapons, but you lose enough to make it, to give yourself a little bit of a hill to climb. But it never feels overwhelming. And the difficulty spikes are also appropriate. It's 7 stages long. Stages 1 to 4, pretty standard, not too difficult to get through. And then 5, 6, and 7. 7 especially ramps it up. It's tough, but when I eventually beat it, and it took me a few hours, I'm not going to lie, like I was just hitting continue over and over on stage 7 just to get by it. But I eventually did, and it felt great. Arnie.
Unlimited continues?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Matt.
Paul, are you generally a fan of this type of game, to this genre?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been playing these since I was a kid, right?
Yeah. To almost perverted degrees.
Almost.
So how would you compare this to like the Icaraguas of the world and games of that ilk? Like, how would this compare? Ikaruga.
Okay, so Ikaruga, yeah. I wasn't going to correct you. You're the guest. I'm glad you did, though.
As it came out, I said, that's wrong.
I know. It's a Latin country is what it is. But anyway, it really depends on kind of what you want out of your shmup. Like, Ikaruga is difficult to the point of almost frustration. And it's a bullet hell game, right? Whereas GG Aleste 3 is more of like an old school shmup in that it's throwing challenges at you, but the challenges are not in the form of a screen filled with bullets. Where I play those games, but I don't enjoy them as much, right?
So would this be more of like a 1940X or a Raiden or something of that ilk?
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, like, honestly, it's Aleste, right?
Yeah,
because like the weapon upgrade system, the types of weapons themselves, they're very much Aleste. Like you kind of have like a homing weapon, you have like this firebomb kind of thing, a railgun, like laser, you know, all the kind of standard ones. There's 5 different ones, and some are better in some sections, some are better, you know, some are not better in those sections, and you kind of have to figure out which weapons you want for each section. The game provides ample opportunity to swap weapons, right? Because basically what happens is there's sort of like a drop ship, and when you shoot the drop ship, it drops a weapon, and the weapon changes every, we'll say 3 seconds, and it cycles through all 5. And the dropships are very generous. They come very often, so if you do want to swap a weapon, you will have an opportunity to do that. So, you know, they've really kind of thought of everything. And I gotta say, like, it's not just like, you know, this game is good. Like, it's innovative. Like, I can't fucking believe they did this with a Game Gear game. The level I'm thinking of in particular is stage 5. There's this level. Now, this is a top-down scrolling shmup, right? Yeah. This level, in the middle of it, there's like a cylinder, right? And what you're doing is you're flying along the cylinder. And so if you move to the right, it turns the cylinder so that you're kind of flying around it. And so there will be enemies behind it. And if you like fly to the right, then you'll eventually find those enemies. Or if you fly to the left, depending on where they are in relation to the cylinder. And what it is it's a dogfight. It's just your plane and 2 other planes that are firing like homing missiles at you. And you're having to maneuver yourself around this 360 environment, but on a 2D plane. And it is awesome. It's awesome.
Wild.
I've never played a shmup like this where you're like dogfighting with 2 other planes. Like, how do they even think of this? It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, they are. It's, I mean, just based on what you just described, they are definitely vibrating on a whole different frequency.
I can't believe they're not rusty.
Wise.
Yeah, like they just like they're my favorite shmup developer from the old days, and like they've actually kind of leveled up. That stage in particular, and the music's so good, man. It's so upbeat, and you're just like, man. So yeah, GG Aleste 3, like if you can kind of get past the dated graphics, man, it's too good. It's too good. I'm very, very impressed that they were able to do that on what is essentially Game Gear hardware.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, to end on a sour note, however, I played this game, so every once in a while on Steam, I'll look for keywords, right? I'll look for tower defense games, because I love me a tower defense game. It's a malign genre, but I love it. I'll look for roguelikes, and I'll look for, RPGs and stuff like that, indie, whatever, right? And there's this game on Steam called For the King. It is described as a tabletop roguelike RPG with JRPG elements. Now, Arnie, you've been playing Dicey Dungeons for the Switch, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Now, imagine Dicey Dungeons, but 1,000 times less fair. with no way to massage your dice rolls or RNG, right? Dicey Dungeons, you have opportunities to re-roll.
Yep.
You have opportunities to move the dice. So if you have a 3, you can move it to a 4 or even a 5, right? Like you have opportunities to kind of remove the RNG nature
the game,
of it, right?
The game kind of encourages you to, build yourself in a way that you can change dice as much as possible for the most part.
You can build consistency.
Yep.
And this is the mark of any good roguelike, right? Slay the Spire. You're trying to build the most consistent deck. Sometimes you'll sacrifice power for the sake of consistency, so you know what cards you're drawing each time, right? For the King does not give a fuck about you and your attempts at consistency. I was wondering at first, I'm like, holy shit, I'm dying a lot, right? And the game warns you at the beginning. It says, before even the title screen pops up, it says, listen, you're going to die. You're going to die a lot. Other people have tried before you. They've all failed. It's not you. And I'm like, okay, cool. That actually appeals to me, right? I'm like, all right, this is going to be challenging, right?
Yeah.
I died a lot at the beginning, but I got the hang of it. And I'm like, all right, this is pretty good. And I had a run where I made it pretty far. I made it to like the second last kind of area. A run through this game probably takes, I don't know, 4 to 7 hours or something like that. It's actually pretty long for a roguelike. I might be overstating it, but that's how long it took me. And I guess maybe because I was new at it, maybe a more seasoned player can get through it more quickly. But the way the game is designed, you have 3 characters and you move them one at a time over an overworld map. And you encounter enemies and you encounter skill checks. So like, for example, you come upon a well. Do you reach into the well or not? And if you have a particularly agile character, you roll a dice. And if you roll higher than pretend it's a 100-sided dice.
Yeah.
And if you roll higher than, or if you roll lower than a 70, then you reach into the well and you grab an item. But if you roll higher than a 70, you reach into the well and you die. and you have limited lives. You have only 3 lives in the game that are distributed amongst your 3 characters.
Do you have any control over rolling the die, or is it just completely random?
Great question, Matt. The answer is no, you fucking don't. You either... Basically what happens is you encounter these situations where your reward is fairly paltry. You get an item, or you get punished. And so more often than not, I'm like, well, I'm 2 hours into this run. I'm doing pretty good. I'm not going to reach into the well. Fuck that, right? I might die. So the game kind of invalidates its skill checks. And then when you fight, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I have a mage and the mage has a staff. And the staff can inflict a total of 21 damage. And I get 3 dice to roll with. And again, pretend it's a 100-sided dice, right?
Yeah.
So I roll the dice 3 times. And if I get below 70 3 times, I do full damage. If I get below 70 twice, I do 14 damage, 2/3, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is all well and good. The problem is that the staff has other powers. It has like a protection spell where you can cast Protect on one of your other party members and it deflects 1 attack. However, in order for the Protect spell to work, you have to roll below 70 3 straight times. And if you miss once, the spell fizzles and nothing happens. And you get very, very angry. Because what happens is you have all these cool powers, but there's really nothing in the game that's better than just attacking. Because there's no punishment worse than just losing a turn, right? Matt, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I'm somewhat familiar with the game, and my question is, maybe this is the point of it. Maybe you're supposed to play in a party with, I know you can play online. This game has like online capabilities. Yeah. Is maybe that the fun of it? Is that you see your party and your friends just like bad things happen to them for no apparent reason?
If you like to run over puppies, then yes. That kind of joy will be brought to you repeatedly.
Some people are sadistic, Some people enjoy that.
They absolutely are. And you know what? I have no problem with sadistic games. The problem that I have with it is the design, right? Where you give me these abilities, but nothing in the game is better than just attacking. Just attacking is the best bang for your buck because at the very least you're going to do something. And something is better than nothing. And not to harp on it too much, but man, oh man, every time you fight an enemy, I shouldn't say every time, because when you're in dungeons, you don't have a choice, but on the overworld map, every time you fight an enemy, you get a chance to ambush. Now, the problem here is that if you don't successfully ambush, which is usually about a coin flip, you get destroyed. Like, you get ambushed. And this is the first game I've ever seen that I can think of off the top of my head where almost every enemy gets to go before you do. So you enter a fight, and like, I kid you not, man, like, I entered a fight with this one, like, I don't know, some kind of beast, whatever. Who the hell cares? The point is that it attacked my team with like a party-wide attack right off the bat.
Yep.
Stunned everyone so they lost their turn.
Hell yeah.
And then did the same thing again and wiped them out. And I was like 2 hours in, and I didn't get to do a thing. It just wiped me out. Period. Done. See ya.
See, this all sounds incredibly frustrating and very bad. But, and I was waiting for you to like really explain and get more into it. Because what I think they've created here is, bar none, the most accurate depiction of what actually happens when I try to play any board game.
How so?
This is, whenever I try to play Dungeons and Dragons, Pandemic, any game that involves dice in any way whatsoever, this is exactly what always happens to me. Whatever the fucking worst possible outcome is, I'm going to hit it like 2 out of 3 times. Every single time.
It's infuriating. I can't... Oh, my God. The only difference between this and a board game is that, in theory, the board game, everybody's on a level playing field.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're all rolling the dice, and you're all going to get angry equally.
Yeah. And I get to blow on them for luck and, you know, all that stuff.
Sure, yeah. No, the blowing's great.
Yeah.
So...
That's a clip that we're gonna take that one out.
There's no doubt about that. But in For the King, like, your enemies, oh man, like, I know it's anecdotal. I know that I don't have statistics to back me up, but it feels like they never fucking miss. Yeah. And it drives me nuts, man. Like, oh my God, there's this, I was having a pretty good run at one point, and there's an ability in the game called Death Mark, right? So an opponent attacks you, inflicts Death Mark on your character, and then in X amount of turns, the character dies, right? 7 turns later, or whatever, the turn order goes to an enemy character. My character who was Death Mark died, and he had like a buff that resurrected him immediately. I kid you not. He was halfway up off the ground, and the enemy fucking swatted him down like a fly. He was halfway up. I just had to start laughing. I'm like, this is ridiculous. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Matt, have you played it, or are you just familiar with it?
I definitely have watched the trailer back. I think it came out a couple of years ago now, right? This is not a new release.
Yeah.
And
this is not a new game.
I picture like the cel-shaded graphics from seeing this like on the eShop and being like, oh, this looks fun. And some games I feel like don't translate well to video game form. And this definitely seemed like one of them.
I'm not even exaggerating. Like, the one hit death from that guy who stunned my whole party. Oh my God. and like and if you see, and sometimes you'll have encounters, right? You'll have skill checks where the outcome is unknown. It's just question marks attached to percentages.
Yep.
Forget it. Yeah. Don't even try. Like, because you know that the bad thing that can happen is so far going to outweigh the meager good thing.
Yep.
It's something, man. It's amazing because, like, I saw it and it has like, it's reviewed on Steam. It's very positive. It has like 16,000 reviews.
I just looked it up and it has like good reviews.
I know, it's 16,000 people who hate their lives, and
it's a pretty well-known game. It is. It has a little bit of a following, and it sort of reminds me, what you're describing is, if anyone here has played an MMO, and when you walk up, you're standing next to a character, and you're swinging your sword and it just says miss after miss after miss, and you feel like, what am I doing wrong? And this sort of reminds me, as you're explaining, it's like, what did I do wrong? I rolled the dice and I didn't get the outcome I wanted, so now I'm being punished for that? Like, why? And that is frustrating in video games when you feel like you don't have that control.
This feels like in Shin Megami Tensei when you fight that one enemy that has Mamudo or something and it just kills your main character.
I know.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're like,
Bam.
fuck this.
I'm done for 2
hate
weeks.
that guy.
Fuck that. It was the elephants in the 5th dungeon of Persona 5. Fuck those elephants.
Oh, the elephants.
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. So, yeah, for the king, but not for me.
Not for Paul.
That's right.
No.
This seems like a story where somebody's going to reach out to you afterwards and be like, have you tried using this command key that's like hidden in this menu? And you're going to be like, fuck me. Like, there's this basic like equipment change or something that you could do.
No.
Okay.
I spent a good, like, I don't know, 7-8 hours on it.
Wow.
Right? Before.
I thought
So you
like,
really punished yourself to make sure it was bad.
I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to leave that way. But, like, it's just so inherently unfair. And there's no way to get good. This isn't Dark Souls, right? Like, I'm not learning. I'm not getting better. It's literally just, like,
RNG all the way.
Yeah.
RNG, like, up my ass. And I'm just like, no, thank
aren't
you.
there those games that you've only played, like, 20 or 30 minutes of, and you're like, you don't really love it, and your buddy's like, no, keep playing. And at some point, you're like, all right, it's going to get better. He says it's going to get better. Was that what was going through your head as you're playing these 8 hours?
It wasn't so much that it gets better. It was a curiosity because I didn't make it that far over my first few playthroughs. Like, I didn't make it past the first area. I was just kind of like trying to figure out the mechanics and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I made it pretty far kind of once I got the hang of it. But after that time where I made it pretty far, I played another couple times, didn't make it as far, and it just felt like a slog.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it just felt like I had no control over the outcome. It was like I was just, it was a really time-consuming slot machine where there's no chance that I win.
Yeah.
So, that's for the king in a nutshell, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I very rarely complain about games on this show, but like, oh my God.
Was the end of the game like could you see how long you had to, like, how many areas you had before you finished it? Or was it something where you were just like, it's like area number 8, I still have no idea how many more areas I have to play?
Yeah, no. The map does a reasonably good job of showing, because a lot of it's covered in Fog of War, right? Yeah. And it's slowly revealed to you as the game goes on. So you do have a pretty good grasp of how long it's going to be.
Gotcha.
The one run where I made it pretty far, I was either at the last area or the area before it, for sure. Okay. And there's like 4 or 5, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, when you make it that far on one run, the game like squeezes you automatically for at least another 4 or 5 hours, because now you're like, I did it, I made it that far, I can do it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the only reason I made it that far was just because I avoided being punished hard is really what it was, right? So, it's I'm not gonna play it again.
Was this a Steam purchase?
Yeah.
So it's not like you can sell it back or anything like that.
No.
I would not inflict this. If I had a physical copy, I would bury it in my yard, and that would be that. Actually, no, that implies that it may be found one day. I would burn it.
There you go.
I think we can wrap it up now. Yep. Anyhow, yeah. So thanks again, everyone, for joining me here today. Again, we're the Region Free Gamers podcast, not the Fodcast. I don't even know what that is. Linktree, patreon.com/RegionFreeGamers is where you can find all of our stuff. Matt, again, where can we find you?
A Hall of Fame pod on all podcast services. And I just want to say thank you guys. It was a lot of fun joining you guys on the Region Free podcast, the gamer podcast here. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you,
Thanks.
man. And Kelly,
also, a
Arnie?
podcast is a podcast with Fozzie Bear on it. That's a podcast.
I mean, I'm not going to be able to cut that. But anyhow, thanks a lot, everybody.
Peace.